Hey there, Kissable Misters, it's B3 back with another fantastic action figure review. Today, we have a beautiful figure for you from Boss Fight Studio, and Wave 2 of Saurozoic Warriors is Staze Akiden, who is kind of an Ankylosaur Ronin. Yeah, he was super loyal to his master. We'll get to the lore in a sec. It's on the back of the packaging, but I reviewed the Nightlands variant range of Brachion from Big Bad Toy Store a while ago, and the figure was so good. I loved it so much that not only did I decide to buy every single Saurozoic Warriors figure, I also decided to invest in Saurozoic Warriors and Boss Fight Studios. That is how confident I am in this line. I am now Boss Fight Studios' first officially approved eBay retailer. And at the time of recording this, you can find the entirety of Wave 2 of Saurozoic Warriors, and actually by the time this is up, probably Wave 1 as well, on my eBay page and in my physical store. So if you're in Georgia, in the US, you can get them from my physical store, or you can get them on eBay for their regular $29.99 retail price. And trust me, they are worth it. But in today's review, even though I do have a bunch of these to sell, I am gonna be fair and balanced here. Yes, I've fallen head over heels for Boss Fight Studio, but I also, have a reputation to maintain. Now, I think this is pronounced Staze Akiden. Here he is in packaging. The packaging is kind of big on these guys, so in-package collectors will really like that. If you're not an in-package collector, you might find it a little wasteful, but you can see all of the accessories very clearly and plainly in the package. So it really lets you know what you're getting. And once again, if you're an in-package collector, that's really nice as well. Boss Fight Studio, Saurozoic Warriors, Staze Akiden. And if you want to know more about the lore, there is a free digital introductory comic book on their website. If you have a desktop, I recommend trying it on a desktop, because when I tried it on my phone, it wouldn't email me the link. It wouldn't work for some reason. But when I tried it on my desktop, it immediately worked. So that's that. Here we have very cool art, and all the art on here is original, handmade art. Very cool. And then here's the back where we get the lore. Slow-moving, yet invulnerable, and with great strength, Staze served his master well for many years, protecting him and his family against their foes. When his master died and was replaced as clan leader, Staze found himself out of favor with the new generation. They did not care that he had devoted his life to the tribe, or the many victories that had been won due to his martial skill. They thought him long in the tooth, and he was exiled. Now considered a Dracohorse, an outcast or Ronin, Staze does what he has to in order to survive. He has a strict moral code, often taking less of a fee if he feels the cause is just. He remains a capable fighter, able to thrash any two other fighters to within an inch of their lives if required. His slow speed more than compensated for by his experience campaigning across the many environments of Sauria. And if you don't know the base lore, Triax Skyver here, I read it as Skeever, but I'm pretty sure it's pronounced Skyver, and I'll get into why I think it's pronounced that way when I review him, which is incoming, because all four of these figures are currently for sale on my eBay page and in my physical store. Well, the time of recording, I haven't put them in my physical store yet, but by the time this is up, they probably will be. If not, by the beginning of March. So, March 2026. So, Triax Skyver here stole plans and tech that warlords were hiding from the people that could make their lives better, and a bunch of bounty hunters and mercenaries are being sent to capture him and return the plans to the Ceratopsian warlord. And this guy, more than likely, lore-wise, would end up being one of them, but he has a strict moral code, and I feel like once he found out what Triax Skyver was up to, he would join him. You know how it goes. because this guy's clearly not a villain. He's not Mar Ossus, which is another one. That's the Stegosaur. This guy's clearly a good guy. He's just got a rough life. So that is pretty darn cool. So yeah, really cool box, really cool lore. Now let's get this guy out of package. And here he is out of package, Staze Akiden. Very, very cool. He's got parts of him that are more medieval and parts of him that are more samurai-y, which I think is pretty cool because there are full-on samurais and also full-on medieval knights kind of in this line as well. So his armor, in a way, feels a bit like a matchup of sorts, like a which I think is pretty cool. And speaking of armor, guess what's removable? Yeah, his back plate. And I'm actually very happy that it is. It is fully detailed and stuff under there. And then I made it a lot easier getting this tail on because the tail, you see, has to be popped on. You saw it in the package. And it's a little bit of a pain. You're probably going to have to heat the tail up to do it with ease. But this way you can remove this and you don't have to, you know, hold down on spikes while you pop this tail in. However, the tail spikes you still have to, And a lot of dinosaurs in this line don't have their tails, but the tail club is such a defining feature of the Ankylosaur, I'm sure they felt that they had to. He can stand without the tail dragging the ground because he has those big wide feet. So, you know, but you can also use it kind of almost as a stand. Very nice, and I guess we're just talking about accessories now since we're talking so much about the tail and the back. Very cool. Does this come off? Whoa, look at that. And you know, one of the reasons these might come off is just in case they make another Ankylosaur in the future. Because here's the thing about Boss Fight Studio. They love swapping figures parts around. They love it. Their hacks line is entirely based around doing that. And most of their lines are hacks lines. That's why so much of this isn't sculpted on. So much of this clothing, most of the clothing actually, is stuff that you would feasibly be able to take off. I don't know if these hands pop out or not. I don't really want to try because I don't plan on taking the armor off anyway. But like a lot of pieces and things, because this armor, it's just kind of sitting on the front of him. Like, you take the shells off and you could slip this armor off. See? He's fully detailed. He's designed for the armor to come off so that if they make another Ankylosaur, which I hope they do, because I want this line to go on forever because I love it so much, you can swap all the parts around to make your own characters. That's awesome. That is a genuinely awesome thing that Boss Fight Studio seems to want to do with most, if not all, of their lines. All the ones I'm familiar with are like that. And that's pretty incredible. That's honest to God awesome. And I wasn't really thinking about that when I was doing my Range Brachion review, but a lot of his stuff was like that too. But it only occurred to me now that I have multiple Saurozoic warriors that is very intentional. And now that I've also familiarized myself with the hacks lines and etc. I will be also getting epic hacks for my collection. Not sure if I'll be selling them. Right now I'm focused on Saurozoic warriors. I want to see how they do first because I don't give a crap what anyone has to say. Hey, I like Saurozoic warriors. I wanted to invest in them and help the line. Anyway, that's awesome. So his pieces of shell are accessories in themselves, which I did not expect it to be like that. That's so cool. But be careful putting this tail in because it might hurt your hand. He does come with, I suppose this is his main weapon, a big spiked club, which makes sense for an Ankylosaur, wouldn't you say? I think it makes a lot of sense for an Ankylosaur. It's got a decent amount of silver paint. It looks like it's just full silver here, full silver here. Maybe if some of this silver was spread out to the different spikes or whatever, but it's fine. It's still a very big, nice club, and this is almost certainly the weapon I will be displaying him with. Though, if Boss Fight Studio, this is what I would have done, just personally, as a design choice. This isn't a gripe or anything. This is just what I would have personally done. I would have just made the club look like an ankylosaur tail, like a big mace thing. And that would have just been the tail, and I might not have given him one. But I can see him being pretty back heavy, so if you know, did certain stuff with him, so maybe the tail works out best. Who knows? He also comes with a big old gun, which has kind of the same exact paint scheme, and it's pretty cool. It almost looks more like a flamethrower, doesn't it? It doesn't say what kind of gun it is, but it's pretty cool. And he also has this little blade in a sheath. Nice metallic paint on this blade. Oh, look at that. It's, oh, you can't, I don't know if you can see because of the light, but it's already got paint scuff. Right, this is right out of the package. My first time removing it from the sheath. I guess the heat during shipping kind of made it stick, so it already has paint scuff. That's a bad sign. That's not good. See, I told you guys, if I saw something to gripe about, I would gripe about it. This is not a biased review. I just love Saurozoic warriors. I'm selling them, yes, but I love them. I guess you could say that's blood, since it's kind of a, I don't want to say burgundy, it's a bit deeper. Brick red, maybe? You could say that's blood. That kind of works. As you can see, he holds this blade perfectly. The hands are kind of a tough rubber, so you can stretch them out to fit stuff in them if you really need to, which is very nice. And then the sheath can be housed on his person. It's a little difficult to get the tip in, but once the tip is in, the whole thing goes in just fine. Don't I know it? Anyway, don't tell anyone I said that. Anyway, that works really well. I will be displaying this on him for sure, but I don't think it's the weapon I will have him holding. Like a little toothpick to him, dear Lord. And here he is with what I'm going to call a flamethrower. I don't know if it is or not. I'm going to call it that. That's what it is canonically to me, anyway. While it is designed to be held kind of like a weapon with two hands, you can't really, because his torso is so wide, right? You can't really get both hands on it in a comfortable way. It looks like he's holding on for dear life if you try to get both hands on it. But other Saurozoic warriors might be able to hold it much better than he. The ankylosaurs and the stegosaurs have just huge torsos, so I think that's why. But it is said that he is such a strong and vulnerable guy, you can kind of see him wielding it with one hand. And a lot of these like guns and stuff that come with Saurozoic warriors have this little loop. So if you want, you could add a string to it and like string it across his torso or back or have it under his arm or something. And that's pretty cool. That's a little extra display option that they give you. It would be nice if it had the string with it, but I don't really blame him for that. And here he is with his spiked club, which I feel like is definitely like the thing to display him with, you know. The spikes on it are actually, they're not too sharp, but they're a little something. Like if you stepped on this puppy, it would hurt, but like squeezing it, I'm fine or whatever. But if you stepped on it not knowing it was there, it might hurt you. Just keep that in mind. Because remember, these figures are for ages 8 and up. I think they're primarily made as adult collectibles, but they're also made to be like durable and not really dangerous or anything. So that's nice. This does have a little weight to it, so it has, while I was playing around with him, it did make his hand do that a couple times. Now that, oopsie. So you kind of have to pose it just right. But the articulation all across him is really tight, but not too tight. I think this is just kind of heavy towards the end, so it takes him down a little, unfortunately. But his joints they all move really well and stay put. Unless he's holding this club. So now let's do that, actually. Let's look at articulation. I normally do that before accessories, but it's just kind of the natural flow of things this time. The jaw articulates, you know, that's my favorite articulation that any figure can have. You also got up and down on the head and a rotation. Oh, those are pretty sharp too. This guy's got some sharpness going on. And the neck also, a lot of movement in there. Maybe a little more even if you took everything off, you know. Yeah, take it off. But, you know, you got rotation on the arms, not really hindered by the shoulder pads, which is really nice. In and out. Is there a rotation on the bicep? No, it's on the elbow. Okay, so that joint is reserved for the elbow, which is also a single bend. And then you also have forward and back on the wrist, which is kind of hidden, but it is there. And rotation on the wrist. And there is rotation and okay, that's bothering me actually now. There is nice movement on the waist that can also kind of crunch, so that's really cool. He has a rubber bussy covering, and you can see it's like detailed so that he had to rip a hole in the back of his jeans to stick his tail out. The legs go in and out farther than you would expect. Look at that. That's a good kick. You didn't expect it to go that far, did you? Yeah, no. The rubber bussy covering lets him get a lot more movement than he normally would, which is really nice. There's a single knee bend that also rotates, and then the feeties have an ankle pivot as well as up and down and stuff. Very, very nice. And then detail and paint-wise, he's pretty good. I don't know if you noticed, but he looks a lot like a late 80s kind of 90s cartoon character, and that is the intent. He is supposed to look like a 90s cartoon character. He's supposed to look like a 90s cartoon character toy, but there is no cartoon. There's one free digital comic. I'd love for there to be a comic, though, because it's cool. But yeah, it's kind of in the design of like, let's say you have like, if you collect Playmates Ninja Turtles, especially the old ones, Masters of the Universe, Thundercats, Street Sharks, things like that, he'll look pretty good with them. So detail and paint-wise, you know, there's a lot more paint detail than you would expect on this guy. See, there's lots of different colors on his more biological armor and stuff. You know, the twine here, fully painted. Got the silver buckles painted, and not everything's painted because you see like those stitches aren't painted, but it's a really good equilibrium of paint. My only real gripe, detail and paint wise, is really almost more of an accessory gripe. You see these kind of gauntlet parts on his arms, and the shin guards on his legs are really kind of loose. They flop around a lot. I just kind of wish they were maybe a little tighter, because once again, yeah, these guys swap parts a lot, but do the legs and feet pop off? I really don't want to test that, you know? So that you could slide them off, I don't know. I know this torso armor can come off. You could probably slip this puppy off if the feet came off, and that comes off, that comes off, that comes off. So, sorry this is a long one. It's just I have a lot to say about the Saurozoic warriors. But the paint is pretty clean for the most part. There's a tiny little bit of paint on the nose going onto the skin off his little beak. That's the only paint flaw I could really find. The toes and claws and everything look good. He's pretty good. So now let's get into everybody's favorite part of the review, size comparisons. So here is Staze with some other very cool indie action figures. Here on the left, the only other Saurozoic warrior I have reviewed so far, Range Brachion. This is the Big Bad Toy Store exclusive Nightlands repaint of Range Brachion. I cannot get this one for my store unless I buy it like loose secondhand or something, because this is a Big Bad Toy Store exclusive. So I will not be selling this Range Brachion. I do not currently have the regular Range Brachion, but I might down the line. Anyway, he looks good with Brachion here. Brachion is a sauropod, so he's tall. That's that. And then the Ankylosaurs, like, I haven't opened my other Saurozoic warriors yet, but I get the impression that the Stegosaurs and Ankylosaurs are the short ones because they're so thick. So he doesn't look as good next to the Valaverse Action Force Steel Brigade Pink Female Breast Cancer Awareness figure here on the right. She's about Marvel Legendy size. So while these guys say 112, they are technically, but when they're standing next to like a human like this, it kind of feels like they should be bigger, doesn't it? But there's no humans on their world, so it's not like we have a size comparison of humans. So maybe they just are this size. I don't know. It would be nice if he was kind of big and hulking compared to her, but at the same time, that would increase price and blah, blah, blah. So, yeah. I mean, I think it works out. He scales well with range Brachion, and really scaling well with his own line is all that matters. Next up, let's show him with a Dinosaur. Here on the left, we have the Safari Limited Feathered Velociraptor. So if you want more animalistic dinosaurs running around with your Saurozoic warriors, I actually think this looks pretty good. And then, if you want them fighting kaiju, like Kyodai Heroes or something, here is the Bandai Japan Moving Monster Series Shin Godzilla 4th form on the right. And last but not least, I wanted to show him with a Henshin hero, like the Tamashii Nation Shinkoku Seiho, Kamen Rider, Amazon. And I love this Amazon, by the way. It's an incredible figure. Well, Amazon does maybe seem a little big. Remember that this guy is supposed to be the shorter, chunkier kind of character. But it might be nice if he was a little bigger, because these Saurozoic warriors, I actually think, would make great kaijin. They would make great villains for your Kamen Riders, Power Rangers, Super Sentai, you know, your metal heroes, things like that. I think they would make great kaijin. I really do. So, you know, if you took this guy, this figure art, and you posed him down a bit lower, like in a more of a fighting stance. This is just kind of a quickie stance, nothing, you know, too crazy. You see, once he's posed, they're a bit more eye to eye. That looks a bit more natural, doesn't it? Yeah. So if you posed up a figure art real nice, he might look a bit better with it, but just standing vanilla, he feels short, even though I guess he technically isn't, if you think about it. So, what are my final thoughts on the Boss Fight Studio Saurozoic Warriors Wave 2 Staze Akiden? He's a really cool figure. I love this line so much. So far, that's 2 out of 2 figures that have had perfect tightness of articulation out of the box. Not too tight, not too loose. Yes, this club is kind of heavy for his hand. There was a paint issue with the blade. Getting the tail in isn't the easiest thing to do without heating it up. But otherwise, you know, this is a pretty excellent figure. I think he has enough articulation. He's really, really cool. Really cool. I think the eye patch, which is not in frame right now, I think the eye patch gives him a lot of character. I don't think I mentioned that earlier. It kind of shows how battle-worn he is and whatnot. And he's definitely a character that would join forces with Triax Skyver upon learning the truth, upon learning his mission and whatnot, after agreeing to capture him, I'm sure. In fact, he was probably given false circumstances to capture or kill Triax. But yeah, if you're a fan of like 90s cartoons and 90s cartoon toys, I think this is a figure that will feel nostalgic without actually being from a franchise you could possibly feel nostalgic for, at least at the current time. Let's see in 20 years, huh? If toy collectors are feeling nostalgic. But hopefully this line will still be going, because dear God, I love this line. That's why I invested hundreds of dollars into it. So yeah, you can get some at my physical store, but I have most of them on eBay. Check out my eBay page down below. Since he is one of the shorter, thicker ones, he might not be for everyone. But, like, the range Brachion, I love that. I recommend that for everyone. He's really cool. The cartoony colors really pop on him. He's very well done. Very, very well done. And I cannot wait to get Wave 3 in my collection. I know it's been out for a bit, but I never got it. So, we'll see. But that is it. Thank you all once again. And I'll see you all next time. Bye for now.